is Live with Nassim for December 2021, the last one of the year. Hard to imagine.
Woohoo!
We're already here. How did that happen?
We made it.
Yeah, we made it. I don't know. From what I'm hearing about 2022 from, the sources out there, it's going to be quite a ride too.
The sources.
Yeah.
I should have my sources talk to your sources.
Yeah, probably so. Maybe
Yeah.
Then we can sort out what is reality.
Exactly. Been working on it for a while.
Oh boy. Well, I see lots of people coming in from Vancouver, from Maine, from North County, California, Illinois. Wonderful. Edinburgh. Nice. Welcome, Danette. Great to see everybody coming in on Zoom, and welcome everybody on Facebook. And this is our Live with Nassim for December, where our members get to post some questions for Nassim, and we get a chance to dive into a variety of topics. We love to cover the science in these. Of course, this is an extension of our Resonance Academy, which is online courses, with our flagship course being the Unified Science course that is free and now has 7 modules in it, soon to be 8 modules. We're looking forward to that 8th one coming sometime soon. And then many wonderful elective courses from a whole variety of people on a whole variety of topics. So it's a great place to come and learn about unified physics, and Live with Nassim is a chance for our members who are in the Academy, as well as members who are supporting us with their monthly contributions, to come in here and have some time with Nassim and explore the physics, the science, and the implications of it. So welcome everyone. And if this is your first time here, we really appreciate your being here. And this is a Q&A. So I know some of you are already posting questions in the Q&A link. And if this is new to you, then you can find the Q&A link down in your Zoom panel for those on Zoom, and post a question in there, and then it can be voted up in the ranks of popularity. And if we definitely look for those, but I think today we'll maybe just find some others that maybe find someone we haven't ever heard from yet. That might be a good thing too.
Oh yeah. Let's do that.
Yeah. So and I think that's kind of it for the business. If you're in the chat, and make sure you're set to your chat being seen by everyone. So it's not just coming to us panelists. Looks like most of you are already doing that. So all good. So welcome everyone, and welcome Nassim. Great to see you as always. How's it going?
Good
how's
to
your
be here this year, last month.
Yeah.
Really,
we made it.
The cycles continue, the spirals keep spiraling. It's exciting. Had my birthday this month, this last month, and I was having fun skiing with the boys.
I saw that.
And like we were skiing the black chutes, in the bowls. And the day before my birthday, I felt pretty good because it was the first day of the weekend. The second day, I had jelly legs, and I figured, since I was a year older, that now it was hurting more.
Well, yeah, that can happen. Doesn't have to.
Yeah, I tell you.
Drink more arc water.
Yes, for sure. Always have it handy. Yes, and it's a really important time. Many things are culminating now, towards that year 2022, which will be now the year where we will publish this paper I'm working on. And so I'm really looking forward to this year. I think it's going to be a really powerful year for humanity.
I agree.
Yeah, and so it might be a hang on to your shorts moment
Mm.
or let go of your shorts, whatever the case may be. But you know, it will be an important year, I believe. And I'm excited about some of the writing I've been doing in the last month in physics, mostly. You know, with Olivier, it's been really prolific and pretty exciting to see unfold.
Is this new works beyond what is in the paper?
Well,
New research?
it is in the paper now.
Yeah. Okay, good.
It's just
Good.
as we're proceeding, resolving many different equations on the side, you know, that of what we are putting in the paper, because it's so extensive and the
What's
paper's
the name?
already
What's the name of the paper again, Nassim?
Scale invariant, basically.
Right.
You know, it has multiple names right now that are being
Yeah.
considered.
Yeah.
The one that was published, I don't remember offhand.
Exactly. Yeah.
Meaning the abstract that was published with
Right.
the title in it.
Yeah.
It might remain the same title, but it may change.
I was just asking for those who maybe are not yet familiar with the paper and what you're
Right.
referring
Oh,
to. So
yeah, so people can go to our website and see the abstract. We published an abstract about I don't know, 6 months ago or maybe more. The final abstract is likely to be much more different. The same concepts and the same ideas and the same values as are in the abstract, just that more complete with the pieces that I didn't have at the time or I hadn't completed. So I was saying that we're writing a lot of physics on the side that needs to be written. So like, although there's a few thousand equations or a few hundreds, you know, equations in the paper itself, there is thousands of equations that were written the last 2 years of equations that are like complementary equations and equations that define the details between one equation and the other in the paper.
Wow.
That we do not put in the paper because then the paper would be 1,000 page, right?
Sure.
So there is a lot that we are solving, and this is why it's taking so long, is because we're being really rigorous in solving all, you know, all equations in analytical form, you know, at least to the extent that it's self-consistent. Now, there's much more to be written on the sides equation that will become other papers that, you know, those will be, because of course, you know, for instance, we bridge to general relativity, we bridge to special relativity, we bridge to quantum theory, and, you know, the Schrodinger's equations, you know, Heisenberg and all this. And however, of course, we could like keep going in that direction for like, you know, a few hundred pages,
Right.
or
Sure.
a few thousand pages.
Sure.
But clearly we can't do that in this paper. We just showed the relationships, you know, clearly, so that it's clear that there is a mapping to the already existing, you know, paradigm.
Right. Yeah, that's great.
It just treats all of these as subsets of a fundamental equations, you know. So if you if you so desire, you can go and solve it in, you know, tensors and matrices and so on, and do Einstein field equations, or, you know, go and do QCD or
So
whatever.
many different ways of
Yeah.
addressing the same solution.
Yeah,
basically.
except that, like, if you just use the main theory, then you're it's not required, because you're
Yeah.
getting the data
Uh-huh.
in a much more direct way. and
I
simpler
see. I see.
way.
It's just tying it all though into all these different branches, and
Right, exactly.
showing it's consistent and
Well, showing that basically we discovered pieces of the unification, you know,
I see.
foundation.
over the
Um,
over the past
yeah,
decades,
right.
century.
And
Yeah.
and we didn't tie the mechanics correctly, meaning, like, you just,
Mhm.
from a mechanical analytical solution, you know, you can tie to all these other ones that are non-analytical, you know, meaning, you know, you know, QCD or and so on, like they're solved through computing, you know, algorithms. And so you lose resolution. So it is not necessarily an interest to do so. Although it could give, you know, it could be rectified and actually become a good tool.
Mhm.
But we don't do that work right now. It's just too
Mhm.
much, you know.
Right. Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's, you know, there's complexity. I wanted um to communicate that today, because people are asking, how come it's taking so long? So, you know, just to give like a little window
Yeah.
what is being accomplished. And uh and we're going to need the support of the international physics community to help us with these other pieces, you know, as well, which is going to be fairly straightforward, because we it's although we didn't necessarily write those equations, I can see the path through, you know,
Right.
the physics, you know, how the physical concepts.
Sure.
Right.
That's
So
exciting.
yeah.
Mm.
And we're in the middle of, as well, solving equations that describe the structure of space-time, or like the structure of the Planck plasma, the Planck field, in terms of its, you know, elasticity and its fluid dynamics, you know, including hydraulic dynamics and so on. It's very remarkable.
That is remarkable. That you could actually get to that point is truly remarkable.
Yeah, the fact that you know, from the foundation equations of the mechanics of the Planck plasma dynamics, without involving fluid dynamics, you kind of like fall into the Navier-Stokes equation, which, you know, is kind of like beautiful, which is the fluid dynamics equation. And you know that there's $1 million prize for that, you know, on the side note. But you know, the fact that, like, you can literally use the fluid dynamic analogy to space-time, like, and push it to like large extent, you know, in terms of its fluid dynamics, literally, you know, like water going down, you know, a river, producing forces, and so on, and all this and that. And so it's like, wow, you know, consistent, beautiful, simple,
It really
clear.
is that way.
Yeah, yeah. It's like
Elegant simplicity.
it's elegant, it's simple, it's beautiful, it's precise, and is you know,
It's
it'll make
also,
you cry.
it's intuitively sensible too, and even logically as well. But it's like, go, yeah,
Of course.
that's the way it would work.
Yeah.
Air and water and all these
Right.
things we can experience are all the same field in the same
Mhm.
motion. So
Yeah,
why
they're
would it be
produced.
otherwise?
Yeah, exactly. They're produced by the same universe, and then the hard problem of consciousness doesn't seem so hard anymore because we're basically bags of water walking around with
right.
some minerals in it, that's self-organized, which
Condensed field.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's the extension of space, as Einstein described it himself, right? That objects are an extension of space, right?
Yeah.
The material
Right.
world is an extension of space. So, and all of a sudden, if you look at the fluid flow of information of space-time through the water bag, you get pretty well a good model for awareness and consciousness and self-awareness and all this to emerge, right? Because you got feedback between the water bag and the water around it, right? And
Exactly
so
right.
from the environment. And so there's an exchange of flow, right? So the fluid dynamics is not just one way, right? It's two ways.
Yeah.
And there's one way that's gravitational and there's one way that's electromagnetic.
It's always an exchange.
Yes.
Really.
And
Every boundary or membrane is an exchange rather than a division.
exactly. It's semi-permeable. It's not, permeable, meaning there's exchange between the internal structure and the external structure. And that's equivalent with a certain amount of screening in between, right? And so there's thermodynamics and entropy and all this that evolve, because the flows are impeded, right? There's a flow in and flow out.
Right.
Their interaction produce, disturbance, but it's in fluid dynamics, it's
turbulence.
Turbulence, yeah, exactly. Turbulence, and turbulence is vortices, and yes, vortices are polarization of the field, and polarization of the field is a magnetic, electrostatic field, magnetic field. So, all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's like a big flow of the fluid dynamics of space-time that makes up the material world.
As David Bohm called it, the hollow movement.
Yes, that's right.
It's the hollow movement, the whole thing moving in simultaneous fractal integrated coherent flow.
Yeah, like in fractal, dimensions, like if it's, when you look at the fractal being generated by a computer, like, as
exactly.
It's
endlessly.
Yeah, except that in this case, it's not some as proposed by other physicists and popularized. It's not some dude writing a program and we're just a program. It's not that.
Folks, it's not a simulation.
It's not a simulation as taught by humans. The feedback is the program is writing itself, meaning that's what we call consciousness.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not some person, you're the person writing the program locally, and non-locally because you're part of the whole thing. So you're, Yeah. So it really is kind of like important to understand the mechanics really um mm, enough to understand that so that you don't get sidetracked into models that are like a little bit
Hmm.
unrealistic.
Yeah,
Just
too
put it
far in the
that way.
abstraction. Too
Yeah.
far in the
uh,
abstraction. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Abstractions that,
Yeah.
which can be close to the truth, have
Mhm.
pieces of the truth, but are not
Mhm.
integrated, just like, the abstraction of space-time
Mm.
kind of can give you like good results for describing gravity, mm, but not for describing the mass that curves it.
Mhm.
And not for telling you what space-time is made of
Mhm.
and why its curvature produces a force,
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, you can mechanically say, well, there's a potential gravitational potential as a result, but
Yeah.
what is the mechanics exactly that makes that like happen?
Mm.
Meaning that like if it's producing a force, then it has it's something. It's not just a abstractive model, like an abstraction of space that you can say, well, if it curves, it produces a force. Well, if it produces a force, it's because it's something, right? It's not nothing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that energy, that thing is, it's got an energy, it's got a way of moving, it's got it's not, you know, okay,
Mhm.
so it's curving, but it's curving because the thing that's curving it is most likely spinning. I'm just
Right.
gonna I'm
Right.
just gonna put it in the most likely realm,
Mm.
although clearly
Hard
it is.
hard pressed to find an example where it's not.
Right, exactly. Good luck for that. And and so that eventually gives you better idea that like at least it's curling, right? It's not just
Mhm.
curving,
Right.
uh,
Static.
yeah,
Trampoline model style.
right,
Not
exactly.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you have curl, that means you have angular momentum involved, and
Mm.
then you start eventually, hopefully, this is something that the mainstream is not quite clear on how to do. You realize that the thing that's curving and that's curling um, is spinning because space-time is curling, not because the
Mhm.
thing that you're calling a thing
Mhm.
is spinning, meaning the thing that you're calling a thing that's spinning is spinning because space-time is
Yeah.
curling, not the other
Yeah.
way around, right?
Mhm. Yep.
The source of angular momentum is coming from space-time. This is why I
Right.
put torque and Coriolis effect and
Right.
Einstein field equation as my first paper with Dr. Rauscher.
Right.
So except that now although that's still valid, we can map to it and we'll be able to like really improve the Haramein-Rauscher solution and upgrade it and all that.
Nice.
Um, However, as I was saying, we can solve it in a much easier way, and
Mm.
um, and and more analytical. Um, but where was I? Yeah. So then when you realize that the thing that is spinning the thing is the curl of space-time, you realize that mass must be a function of space-time spinning, right? It's
Mhm. Mhm.
because you're calling this thing that you're saying is like an energy that's curling space-time or curving space-time is what you're calling mass, but E equals mc squared. So it's energy with the speed of light, involved, right? And so you can start to describe that in a completely different way. And I'm gonna stop there because then now I'm getting on things that that will be in the paper, but
We'll have to wait.
yes, yeah. But basically,
Right.
Conceptually, you can see the model, right?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah,
And
it's very, very simple.
it's kind of obvious because all you have is a field, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Once,
so it's and it unifies as well consciousness because you start to see how it's just one thing, right?
yeah.
It's one vortex dynamic at all scale, kind of
Yeah.
gradient in space-time of a
Well,
fluid. Yeah.
David Bohm's eternal presence of consciousness is going to be very happy because he'll be very vindicated in his presentations of long ago, where he knew that to be true, but he didn't have the underlying model that is.
He didn't have the formalism to describe it cleanly.
But the concept was very clear.
Yeah, the concept was very clear. And if he would have got supported, we probably would have solved it then.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's like you said, once you see it, it's obvious. And you're like, okay,
right.
boom.
Yeah, exactly. After that,
yeah,
you're gonna still do a little bit of like, where is it? How does it go? But you've got a pretty good
the mystery is
it's
not, the mystery is not so mysterious.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Thank you for that that good overview. And well, we know it'll be next year. We all hope and trust it will be early part of next year rather than going through the year again. That's it. When's that paper?
I know.
But it'll be when it is.
It'll be the beginning of the year. But I keep saying a few months.
Yeah. It'll be at the right time.
It will be at the time that it needs to be.
Do you want to touch into a few announcements before we go into questions, Nassim, or do those?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch. Giving Tuesday is a really good occasion to support the foundation. All this research is made possible by you guys becoming members and helping us and donating and at least if I could have more salaries, I would have more physicists helping. We do have helpers already that we're supporting in multiple countries, European countries, and as well India and so on. And we really need the support of the community right now more than ever. And becoming a member makes a big difference. And even if it's at $5 a month, that's $60 a year, that makes a huge difference for us. And we have about 2,000 members. We have 120,000 people taking the course right now, the free online course, that have at least looked at it and so on. And like, if we could get 10,000 members, 15,000 members, 20,000 members out of that, I would really, really appreciate it. It would make a huge difference for us in our capacity to like get this work out. And
absolutely.
In many different ways.
Yeah. So, for those listening, if you want to become a member, just go to resonantscience.org. You can sign up right there. There's a few different tiers, the lowest being $5 a month. And of course, as you mentioned, this Giving Tuesday through Facebook fundraiser is also available. And it looks like that's going to be through this month of December, making that campaign, active. so that we can get donations as well of any size is always welcomed. You know, we're a nonprofit, so those donations are tax write-off for those in the US. And it helps so much. And yeah, it's really timely to get this kind of support for all the work, especially as this paper goes out and everything is clearly going to go to a whole nother level of interaction with the physics community around the world. So having all that support is going to make a huge difference.
Yep.
Yeah.
So are we going to take some questions?
Yes, let's go into some questions. And then we can do a few more announcements right towards the end. What time is it? So let's try to go for like an hour, Nassim.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's see. I think I don't know if I've seen this Jesse Zubiak.
Yeah. So
before.
Jesse, you want to read the question?
That's a new one, I think. Yes, and I will invite you to come on to Zoom. I'll bring you on as a panelist here, and if you'd like to come on, then you can unmute your audio and your camera. And if you don't want to come on for any reason, you might not be in the right location for it, that's fine, no worries. Just leave yourself muted. So Jesse's asking, dear Nassim, can you please describe how the electromagnetic field of the heart, once brought into coherence via self-regulatory practices like they provide in heart math, how that interacts with the vacuum? If it's the carrier field of my information, then is the event horizon or boundary condition the area of highest information flow transfer? So let me
Jess.
Get Jesse on here. I forgot
In Amsterdam.
Panel here.
Let's see.
There we go. There we go in Amsterdam. Yeah. Okay. Should be coming on just a moment.
Hey, Jess.
Unmute, start video.
Hey.
Good evening, folks.
Welcome, Jesse. Good to see you.
Wow. You guys can hear me fine?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, how exciting. I didn't really expect to get called on, and I was hoping. So this is like above expectations here. My heart's kind of racing.
Well,
Don't panic.
These are the times.
Don't panic.
I was literally trying to do the coherence right before I heard you say my name.
All good.
I'd like to say right away, thank you for all your guys' efforts. And for me personally, and as many people as I can have listened to me, it's been a life-changing experience, learning all these nuts and bolts of what's really going on and the real truths. So I'm highly grateful for all this, and thank you, and good luck on the new paper coming up.
Thanks,
Thank
Jesse.
you.
I hope it really has an impact that we're all hoping for, you know. So,
Yeah,
Great.
it will.
Appreciate that so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is crazy. I'm talking to him.
Do you want to just say a little bit more about your question?
Where are you in Netherlands?
In Amsterdam. Yeah, in
Amsterdam.
Amsterdam.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I originally from California, Marin County, just across the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh, right on.
And I've been living here now 20 years.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's been a long journey and stuff, and they're really nice.
Yeah.
But since recently, about 2 years, I've been really involved with Coherence and through heart math, and kind of got intrigued through Joe Dispenza and stuff like that, and then somehow got triggered onto you. I think it might have even just been through YouTube, and then I was like, wait a minute, this is really the nuts and bolts of what I'm trying to do with these practices.
Right.
So
your question on heart coherence, right? You can't I can't answer it just by addressing the heart, right? So I gotta pull back, and this is something that researchers tend to not do.
That's why I was asking.
yeah, so
I don't want to separate the system.
right, they tend to box a system and try to analyze it as if it wasn't part of an organism, like in the case of the heart, clearly. And you know, the organism, so if you look at the organism, you see that the organism is basically an oscillator, right? Like there's an oscillation rate, right? And there's many, and it's an oscillator of a fluid dynamic system, right? In the case of the heart, being the pump of the blood that goes around. In the case of the lungs, being the pump of the gases that are going around, right? In the case of the digestive tract, you know, being the conveyor of the minerals that are going around. In the case of the spinal cord fluid, being the
Yeah.
conveyor of, you know, cooling systems for the brain and so on. And so, which, you know, I could go into that, like calling it the cooling system is really horrifying, because actually it's the part that's doing the thinking. The gray matter is just a part of it, you know. It's like the sugar that settles on the bottom of the glass, right? The brain is mostly water. And so the whole system is an oscillator, and that oscillator is either in high correlation, like phase relationship, right? Coherent phase relationships,
Yeah.
or out of phase, or
Okay. Yeah.
anything in between, right? Like it's not necessarily 180-degree out of phase, because I think
No.
you're dead if that happens. But you know, like if you know, there's some phase relationship between all of these things, right? Like the breathing, the heart, the, you know, like if breathing increase, the heart increase, right? Like it has to stay, all this stuff, like if the pH level change, you know, everything has to, like, all the hormones release, all this stuff, it's all working together, right? And there's
Okay.
few things that you can control in there. There's some things that are easier to control, some things that are harder to control, right? One of them that's the easiest to control is your breathing.
Yeah.
Right? So thus the concept of meditation and concentrating on your breathing and breathing in certain ways, you know, that help regulate the coherency of the relationship between the fluid dynamics of your body, if you'd like.
Yeah.
So if you do these efforts, then you can increase the coherent behavior of your body, so that you can harmonize, if you'd like, better with the fluid dynamics of space around you,
Yeah.
right? Which feeds the whole thing in the first place.
Yeah.
And so then since it feeds the thing, then your heart starts functioning better, your breathing functions better, your blood chemistry function better, you know, your capacity to remove toxins, and, you know, and your capacity to maintain a high level of health and so on starts to function better. Your thinking is clearer, your capacity to get more information from the field, your awareness becomes clearer. You know, there's fundamental transformation, and you know, actually return to like high level of like accuracy in its behavior, maybe more like when you were a child, right? In terms of the biological you know, deterioration. So like, for instance, the fact that you're aging is because there is some replication errors in your cells that's occurring because of environmental toxins and so on that are, affect, like literally interaction with the external environment. If you're more coherent, that means your system is more capable of being in interaction with the external environment, but maintaining coherency. So all these things, you could go to other level, even like to spiritual level of awareness, like meaning that the consciousness can have a more nonlinear impact on the environment, like like have a larger capacity to remote view, for instance, or larger capacity to influence, to heal or to do all kinds of things that are unusual. But that should be usual, meaning that it's the natural state of a high functioning, coherent entity, right?
Yeah, where I was leaning towards was more via the heart math, the heart coherence that will be created.
Yeah,
they were explaining that the torus field, if you want to call it that, or the singularity, the field that can be up to 3 meters or whatever. Yeah, that would be a strong carrier wave of my information towards the, or within the field. I'm not trying not to separate it. And
right.
So
it is the field spinning that's making the torus in the first place.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. All right.
Remember,
all right.
because you're made out of atoms that are made out of the field that are making the biology that are making, right? So,
okay.
Yeah.
But it's quite clear that like when I'm doing it, I feel it throughout all the cellular system, if you will,
metric,
and then the whole thing, right? And then I can feel it. And so what I was trying to imagine is like where if how you describe times the boundary conditions and information transfer flow through. I thought that would be like my bubble, as Marshall was saying, like my. Yeah, I thought that's at least that's what I was imagining visually.
Yeah, but that can be limiting. So, you don't, there's a boundary condition that you can think as the boundary of your body, but that's not really, that's only an illusion at your scale, meaning like those are billions of cells, and each one has 100 trillion atoms in them. And, so, and those atoms are made of Planck oscillators and so on. So,
maybe Jesse's connection might be.
Yeah, maybe Jesse's
falling out sideways.
But so it's best to not think of it as isolated. So like, where does the field outside start? Because the field is you, right? It starts inside of you. That's the field that you have to refer to, which is the practice of meditation in the first place. So
really, the field is continuous.
Yeah.
We perceive, like you said, this boundary, but there's the permeability goes all the way like into the cells, into the atoms, into the nuclei, into the Plancks, all the way through and all the way out.
Yeah, exactly.
On all scales. So
yeah,
continuous.
So it's best to keep that visual, And
it is also discrete.
Yes, it's discrete. It has boundary conditions.
Yeah.
The boundary of the electron, the boundary of the proton, the boundary of the cell.
That's what creates the physical universe, is the discrete boundaries.
Yeah, if there was no boundaries, it would be not. So it's quantized. That was the fundamental problem in between relativity and quantum theories. One assumes, a continuous, literally a continuum, and the other one, a quantized quantity. And it's not one or the other, it's both. And because you know, a flow, a continuous flow will produce boundary condition when it has an inflow and an outflow. And so, you know, but the boundaries are exchanging between the inflow and the outflow. So it doesn't, you know, you can think of them as standing waves in the fluid dynamics of space.
Yeah, exactly. Sure.
And so they still exchanging information across. So it's best to think of it as a continuous across boundaries. Wherever there's a boundary, there is an energy event, because if you have a standing wave, so you can think of it as like there's a restriction in that region.
Yeah.
Right. That's defined by the surface of that boundary. How many Plancks can exchange across that surface of that boundary, right? And so how many bits of information can go across, determine its entropy, its energy level, its thermodynamics, right? Entropy.
And its mass.
Its interaction with the external forces and the internal forces and all this stuff. And you get all of reality out of that model. It's pretty straightforward. But so, you know, and that this, so it brings you to examine, like the question Jesse had, you know, any system that you're trying to examine, and if you're having a hard time understanding how they're relating to each other at different scales, you got to pull out, right? And you got to, you break the box that you put the thing in and look at the whole picture, right? Because it's never the vacuum, you know, it's never the field and something. It's only the field, right?
It's our great mentor, Bucky Fuller, always said, start from universe and then work down from there.
Exactly. Start from oneness.
Yeah.
And you'll
wholeness.
Wholeness. Yeah, exactly. Holistic thinking.
Take the maximum view first, and then, as he said, you remove all the irrelevancies.
Right.
Okay, that's not relevant. That's not relevant. But you don't lose sight of it's coming through the whole universe. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an important shift.
It's actually a reverse analysis from the typical approach of the scientific community in terms of fragmenting the information to try to, you know, somehow by understanding one fragment, understanding the whole.
Exactly.
I mean, it's holographic, so you can, right? But to understand the fragment without without keeping in your consciousness, in mind, in your equations, the whole, right? Then you're not going to understand the fragment. You can't separate them. You can't, you got to understand the whole thing, the whole dynamic. And then you can understand the fragment. And then from the fragment, you can get really, really precise information about the whole thing. Right? Because now you understand the mechanics that are working from one scale to the other.
Yeah, and I think oftentimes you can get a limited understanding that may be accurate. For example, like when they created the holograms, and they're like, oh, this is a two-dimensional surface, and you know, blah, blah, blah. This is projecting a 3D image. So then they get stuck in a limited framework of understanding what is actually right in front of their eyes in this case. You know, when if you include the whole and you see it as just a snapshot of a whole field and a whole process.
Yeah, I mean,
interference patterns.
Even if you analyze the desktop experiment, right? Where is the two-dimensional surface? Because I'm not seeing it, right? You're having a photo, you know, a photo plate, right? That's receiving the photons from the lasers that are interfering on the plate, right? Projecting the apple, you know, if it's an apple here. And the apple in 3D. Well, you know, that plate, that photographic plate has a thickness in terms of like, you can, there's an imprint on it, right? That's the molecules of the plate that makes an interference pattern.
Very, very
Yeah.
large thickness relative to the interference patterns.
Right.
It's not
Right.
trivial at all.
Not trivial. And the atoms, the fact that you can cut that plate in pieces and still get the apple, you
Mhm.
lose resolution, which
Right.
is the entropy.
Yeah.
Which I could get into that, but
Yeah.
you lose resolution, but you still have the apple. And so like that, like the fact that that an interference pattern in like so you can think of it as like oscillation interference pattern, right? So if the holograph was alive, meaning if the apple was a movie,
Mhm.
right? Or like but like literally like a 3D, not just projection, a 3D rendering,
Mhm.
of the field in that region, right? Then you could imagine in a very quick way how to, like, it should have given us the clues required to understand the holographic model pretty quickly in terms of,
Yeah. Right.
in terms of physics, not just like, the fact that it can be done in a desktop experiment should have given us. There's many things that should have given
Yeah, that's true.
It's
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's actually being realized at that level,
yeah,
there's a lot more to it than just what they described it to be.
right.
Yeah, true.
Especially if
Right.
you're trying to like, like if you think of a photon as a carrier of information,
Mm.
right? So, it bounces off the apple. Now it's carrying
Mhm.
that pixel,
Mhm.
right, of the apple. And it's and then it interferes with a layer, and that information is imprinted onto the structure of space, really, because the photographic plate is made of atoms that are certainly not two-dimensional,
Mhm. Mhm.
and so on. And so, and that's when the analogies we make to write mathematics get in our way, because
Yeah, that's right.
the concept of a model, just like space-time, Minkowski space or whatever, or whatever other space we decide to use, the you've made a model that really kind of like you can get some good information from. It's useful, uh, but if you don't put it together to the correct way, you can't tell what you're looking at. Meaning, you've made a model that you can forget that you made.
Mm. Yeah,
And-
that's the trick, isn't it?
yeah, and
Yeah,
then
right.
you go, oh, the universe could be a projection of a two-dimensional surface, and it's
Yeah.
like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Not only you missed it on the desktop experiment, now you're applying it to the universe.
Right.
So
This
it's like,
grossly limited model.
yeah, now you're like making a really big error,
Mm.
right? You're making a big
I
error.
think that's in large part why so much of understanding what is being presented through your theory hasn't come through yet, because it's like it went off in a real dead end in terms of, if that's your model, you're never going to get past that. You're never going to get anything that's really truly related to what's actually going on if you're stuck with that model.
No. You can get really good information from your model. Just don't forget you've made it.
Oh yeah, well that's yeah. That's a better way of putting it.
Yeah. So
Sure.
so that when you do an analysis, you like to think that the surface of a photographic plate is a two-dimensional object is incorrect.
Right.
It's only true in your mind, you know. There's nothing two-dimensional in that thing that you're
Mhm.
analyzing, right? So,
Right.
and certainly not in the thing you're analyzing if you're looking at the universe. And so, you know, it really is important. It's okay to do a model. You're gonna need one if you're gonna write mathematics on it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Just don't forget, again, it's like zooming out and, you know, always considering the larger picture,
Yeah.
and not getting stuck, you know, with the
Yeah.
model.
That's what I meant. You kind of get stuck in a little
Right.
loop of your
Yes.
model, and that limits your understanding and your results
Right.
just by
Right.
getting stuck in that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, saying this is why physics should not be about mathematics.
Yeah. Mhm.
Meaning, yeah, math is okay, it's good, it's a, you can, you get really good precision on it, you can do really good engineering on it, it will inform you, it can lead you, but it has, in order for it to lead you correctly, it has to come from, you know, theoretical models of understanding of the mechanics of what you're trying to describe. Like, it has to come from observation and logic, you know, deduction, logic, right? From observation of the natural world. If you're trying to describe the natural world, that
Mhm.
is, you
Mhm.
know, then you can't go backwards. You can't, you know, make a model and then hope that by turning this model in 20 million different knots, I'm using the word knot,
Mhm.
specifically referring to certain theories that involve strings, you know, and think that all of a sudden it's going to spit out the nature of reality. Physics has to come from knowing, and from, you know, good deduction, good logic. You know, Einstein didn't write relativity by, you know, trying a bunch of things in mathematics. If he did that, um, he wouldn't have published, you know, 5 papers and you know, and transformed the world in basically, you know, to a few years, you know, because he came up with conceptual models that, from observation, from logic, from thinking, and so on, from knowing, and then he wrote mathematics with the help of many, you know, like the help of people around him, which in some ways at the time, I mean, is what they had. So in some ways, the concepts that Einstein was moving forward to would have led him straight to unification if,
Mhm.
if 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 he didn't get kind of sidetracked on some of these models, you
Mhm.
know, that that again becomes the impedance in our capacity to understand the whole thing, right? You
Mhm.
know, choosing to describe space-time as a Minkowski, you know, space, and, you know, like Riemannian matrix, and,
Mhm.
you know, the approach, affine connections, and so on, like tensor equations. Okay, actually, it outputs something that's really good when you put it together um, with Maxwell, but because you need the flow in and flow out, but
Mhm.
um, but basically it does, like, you know, all this would have been unified long before if the models didn't get in our way. Which, you know, in the case of Maxwell, was much closer, and you know, it inspired Einstein, meaning that Maxwell had an ether that was a carrier of the electromagnetic fields, and it was a flow of, in a system, you know, it was a flow of this ether, through, you know, little, hexagonal structures
Oh, yeah.
that describe the electromagnetic field, and it did a really good job. And then it was linearized later by Heaviside, and this this was very good, and it inspired Einstein in terms of general relativity and space-time, but he removed the ether from space-time because of certain experiments at the time that were conducted with certain assumptions that were interpreted incorrectly, because the assumptions they were based on were incorrect about the nature of an ether and all this stuff. And so there was a need to remove the concept of an ether but retain the concept of space-time. Right? And that's when it became really lost in space. And actually, Nobel Prize winner in physics Frank Wilczek, in his conference called the Materiality of the Vacuum. Everybody can find that on YouTube, and does a really good job at expliciting and showing that actually Einstein 10 years later went, well, actually general relativity without an ether is irrelevant. It doesn't work. But it was too late, and so on. And so the concepts, I'm like, I'm taking some time on this because people are asking these questions about meditation, about the way we think of ourselves. How does this affect me directly, like right now? Like if I want to get something from what you're saying that like I can experience right now, and like the most important thing is that you don't limit your boundary conditions to even the Planck, right? So you could go to sub-Planck and and so on, like to think of yourself as an infinite being, even in its material dimensions, right? Because you're made out of little infinities we call protons, which could be called black holes if you want it, singularities, so this is a really important concept. And this is one I have been trying to really impress on people for a long time. And it's very consistent with principles that you find from many different doctrines and historical figures, advanced masters and so on, talking about the nature of reality, but as well as the techniques to access information within yourself, right? Right. So it's consistent with that. Should we take more questions?
Sure, that was great. I really, a lot of people really enjoyed that discussion there. Let's see here. This is another new name, I think, Leon, asking, how can the art crystal be used as an energy device? Are there any future plans where the crystals can be used to draw energy from the unified field? I'm assuming we mean electricity in that.
I'm going to plead the fifth on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be. But we know you're guilty already.
I'm just gonna say yes. There is plans.
Okay.
And yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Well, I'm just gonna say yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Glad to hear it.
You got the right idea.
Thanks, Leon.
Yes. Very good. Yeah.
You get a
And
gold star for that
eventually it
question.
will run your spaceship too. Yeah.
All right, excellent.
Yeah.
Corey is asking, where does sound come from and what's its link to mass? Why is it that the sound or vibration moves through different materials at different speeds? Is this a relationship to energy density of the different elements? The amount of protons, electrons, along with the rate of vibration? And also, have you considered reaching out to Joe Rogan for reaching a larger audience?
Yes. Joe, I don't know. He has been interviewing everybody around me except me. So I don't know. He might have got some bad juju about me. I don't know. But one day, hopefully soon,
It'll happen.
Huh?
It will happen.
Yeah.
Just waiting for that paper, because then you can actually have a full conversation. If you go on now, you're going to be like, I can't answer that. I can't tell
I'm
you.
gonna have to do some editing. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the other thing is okay, so the sound and the vibration, yeah. Oh, there he is.
Corey,
Hey,
I recognize you.
where are you at, bro?
I'm in Colorado.
Oh, we can barely hear you.
Yeah, your audio is very low.
Very low.
Let me try and fix it.
Colorado. Yeah, I did hear you're in Colorado.
Oh, you're in Colorado. Okay.
A little better.
A little better?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
good
that's
enough.
better.
Good enough.
Great.
Okay. So do you want to ask your question more clearly about the sound thing?
Yeah. I guess it kind of just relates to like when we interact with different materials, like, you know, in your environment. It seems as though, you know, obviously different elements, the resonance moves through them at different rates.
Yeah, that's right.
Why is that?
Well, because their capacity to transfer the energy through their system is directly related to their density and their metric and so on. So for instance, sound traveled through water very, very well. Yeah, I mean, very fast compared to like, you know, through the air.
Right.
Because it has a much more dense and coherent, you know, behavior. So there's some interesting things about that. For instance, if you use those theories and you were trying to figure out the ultimate, you know, like what, yeah, it has to do with like if you're trying to say, well, if the vacuum is the medium, then what, you know, but that's another story. So so you can think of it as well, like light going through water having a diffraction index.
Yep.
Right, and so on. So I mean, I could get in details there. What did in particular interest you in that?
Well, I mean, I started out a long time ago playing music,
Okay.
and I got interested in cymatics after that,
All right.
and started to understand the relationship to like form and resonance.
Right.
You know, every object you interact with has a very specific set of resonant properties that dictate its physical characteristics.
Correct. Yes. Very good.
So like one of my favorite things, I think a while ago I described this to you. I love to meditate with didgeridoos. Something I found years ago, and it's just about the best thing I found to like clear my mind, connect to myself, but also connect to the universe.
Yeah.
And so with didgeridoos, it gives you a perfect example of the connection to mass and resonance, that if you change the mass, you change the frequencies. I mean, actually, a big key to that is just right on your face, your mouth. If you want to make a different sound, you have to make a different shape. And so your mass is 100% linked to these frequencies. And so I'm kind of wondering is, when you interact with stuff, is the interaction happening in a way where it's starting from a central point and rippling out, much like water, and it's going in through each atom in these concentric circles, and the atom shares the information with the subplonk. The subplonk shares that with the whole universe. That resonates everything back into the next concentric set of atoms in the propagation.
Yeah, you
Is this how
jumped the
we
Planck, but
propagate?
yeah, yeah, something like that. Yeah. Okay, so
Okay.
but when your visualization is still very linear. So let's try to do a little non-linear thing there.
Yeah.
So imagine you concentrate the information bits onto the surface of an electron cloud, right? And then onto the surface. So then there's an exchange there, right? And then onto the surface of a proton. So then there's
Right.
an exchange there, right? And inside the proton is made out of 10 to the 40th. I mean, actually 10 to the 60th Plancks, right?
Right.
So that, the surface 10 to the 40th, 10 to the 60th is the inside, right? So the information transfer across that boundary already is really, really high density.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it goes to the Planck, which is another exchange of information with the subplanck, right?
Yeah.
And so on.
And at that rate,
To infinity.
The information
Okay.
moves very fast, faster than light at the subplanck, right?
Oh yeah, the subplanck, it's going 10 to the 40th the speed of light.
So that's how it's sharing the information of each proton with the whole universe at all times. It's through that basically resonance of that field.
Right, basically the oscillation of that field. Yeah. So imagine, this might be a little bit hard. It might hurt your brain a little. So
No,
don't panic.
I love it.
It's just momentary brain, scattering. If you consider, so we've concentrated on one atom, right?
Right.
Now consider that atom is very specific in its coordinates in space relative to all the other atoms in the universe.
Yep.
So let's say it's one atom in your body, right? The fractal nature of the field makes it so that every Planck that's in there is its own coordinates in space as well. So they're all getting different sets of information, right? So there's all these different interpretation, if you'd like.
Yeah.
And when you get to the subplanck, basically you've imprinted across so much value. Actually, at the Planck, you imprinted across the mass of the universe. You already have the mass of the universe there in terms of energy density, right? So you've all other coordinates in space have been affected by that oscillator that has, transferred a bit of information, right? You see how that works, because it's one thing that's oscillating the whole thing, right? Right. So it can hurt the brain a little bit because it's infinite like that, meaning like smaller you get, more information you're encoding, right? Which is hard for the brain a little bit because you think more in a smaller space is contradictory, right? But it's because the space keeps fractalizing smaller and smaller, right? So
is the partially like why there's so much energy density in space have to do with its oscillation range, that it's both smaller than atoms, but it's like universal scale?
Yeah, it's because the Planck, it's because the Planck particles so small, right?
Frequency is very
So the frequency
high
is really high. So there's a lot of oscillation in the structure of space. Yeah.
per second. Yeah.
Yeah, per second.
That's why the energy density is greater. The higher the frequency, the smaller the wavelength. That's why Nassim saying the smaller you go, the more information density gets
Encoding.
packed in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, just like, you know, we used to have phones, cordless phones that are at 900 hertz. Now, you know, they're at 2.4 megahertz, you know,
Mhm.
higher frequency, more information, more resolution, more stuff is happening, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah, just like a
Great.
computer.
Great. Thanks,
Uh,
Corey. That was
yeah.
good exploration.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely just want to thank
Yeah,
you guys
good
again
question.
for
Nice to
all the
meet
work
you.
you're doing. Yeah, you too.
Thank
for
you,
sure.
Corey. We
Get some
appreciate
good
it.
skiing in Colorado.
Yeah, I usually go camping in the summer. I'm not so much of a, I moved here from North Dakota, so
Oh,
I'm used to really cold weather. I don't really enjoy it. So I like the sun.
uh-huh.
All
Okay.
right. All right. Well, enjoy
Yep,
and
take care,
take
guys.
good care.
Yep.
Thanks for being here with us. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Nassim, I wonder if you want to talk a little bit about the Mexico trip right now before
Oh, yeah.
we get close to ending here and take one or two more questions.
Is there, okay, the Mexico trip? Yeah, I'm excited. In February, we're going to Tulum. It's gonna be amazing. We're gonna have so much fun, and I'm gonna be able to present all this to you and much deeper levels, and we're gonna be as well going to ancient temples, ancient site, and that's going to be awesome. And it'll be during the full moon, and yeah, we're going to have an amazing time.
And
So
Greg Brayton is a guest.
going to
Yeah.
be a guest one night. We got Danica Patrick with us. It's going to be fun. You know,
Excellent.
yeah. There's going to be presentations from all kinds of different people. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. I can't wait.
This is February 12th to 20th, I think, is what if I'm correct.
Yeah.
The dates, I think it's right in that time frame.
Yeah, February. Yes.
Jamie has put a link in or some information about it in the chat, and if you're on Facebook, you can go to resonancescience.org. And I think, or is there even another website link for Singularity conference?
Oh, yeah. There's
Jamie can put it in. Yeah.
There's Haramein, Nassim Haramein.com. You can go there too.
Okay, great.
NassimHaramein.com.
Well,
pop up.
Those trips are always really incredible and over the top, and always something beyond what we might expect happens.
It's transformative
yeah.
for everybody, including us. So
yeah,
it's always exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, another question?
Sure. Let's see, where are we?
Somebody we haven't met yet?
I know our good friend Randy Langle has a pretty involved, deep question. I think you might want to
address that one.
Well, you could, yeah. Why don't we bring Randy on and just see if it's a question for now or for later, because it's pretty technical, I think. But let's see. Let's say hi to Randy here for a moment. And Randy, get ready.
Oh,
here we go.
I haven't seen him in a long time.
Yeah. Randy's been in our community for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And
he was on multiple trips.
Multiple trips, and a fantastic proponent of this work. Not only that, but a great instigator and collaborator of projects to put this into application. And there's obviously some more of that going on with this question. So I think.
Do you want to ask the question, or are you able to bring him on?
I think I just promoted him to a panelist.
Okay.
Let's just get this. Oh, something didn't happen there.
I'm looking for the question. I haven't found it.
Oh, it should be right near. It's just a 2 or 3 down. from the top. Randy, let's try this again. Promote the panelists.
Hmm.
Okay, I think that's happening. Want me to read it?
Sure.
It's pretty involved here. All right. let me get
Hello?
this. There it is.
Randy,
Yes, hello.
how you doing?
Very good.
Hey,
I
Good.
haven't seen you guys for a while. Well, at least
I
2 years.
know. It's been a few years.
Been a few
Yeah.
years.
We're all still there. So good.
so far so good. Well,
Well,
it's up
the,
to debate.
Yeah, the question we got is I've been working with some people in Mexico, and they've been doing something for the last 45 years that they call quantum medicine. And it uses different natural entities, natural minerals and things to solve different medical problems. And they've had very good success for the last 45 years. Of course, it's mainly been in Latin American countries. Actually, it's only been in Latin American countries. And another gentleman and I, we've been using the crystal to actually inculcate the medical frequencies into water. All right. Now, the situation is that we've got proof of this from 2 different areas. There's been 60 people over the last 2.5 years that have had great results by, again, using the crystal to inculcate water with the medical frequencies for their particular ailment.
When you say medical frequency, what do you mean by that?
Okay, the medical frequency is the frequency exuded by the compounds that are in the medical template. In other words, they can, if you're in Mexico, or in other words, if you're in the Spanish-speaking country, you can use pills. They take them with salt compounds.
Mhm.
And that's what they use to use this quantum medical treatment. But they can't get the pills out of the country, all right?
Mhm.
Because it's restricted. You know, they think it's some kind of
Right.
crazy drugs or something.
I see.
So what they do is they take, or what Ramon is doing is he's taking these minerals, like
Mhm.
say the quantum medicine for, there's a guy here that had Alzheimer's, and another one had some back problems, and another one here has some kidney problems.
Mhm, mhm.
And those particular medications, those particular compounds for that particular ailment, we put in a little plastic, just a percentage of it in a little plastic envelope, and then we take the crystal, put the envelope here,
Mhm.
and then water on the top, and then
Okay.
drink the water.
I see. Okay.
Okay, it's the water then that gives them the benefit, because
Right.
the frequencies are transmitted because of the crystal.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
now we
So
have
it's like a
confirmation.
screening.
What's that?
It's like a screening.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
So, as I said, we have 60 confirmed cases, all right, of that
Nice.
right now, plus some extraterrestrial confirmation, which was really
Well,
interesting.
Randy, you're gonna get me in trouble.
Oh, no, don't worry about it. I'm the one that gets in trouble all the time. Don't worry.
Yes, I understand.
But the extraterrestrial stuff is, what it remarked was, does it work or doesn't it work? Well, the answer was, yeah, it's good, but it could be a lot better if you change the configuration of the crystals.
Right.
All right. So that's what we're looking for, is how can we change the configuration? Right now, I'll use one crystal over the template, then over the water.
Right.
We have 5, and we've tried 5 going around,
No.
no good?
No.
All right, would the one going through with pointing the arrow up, is that sufficient?
I could give you the answer, but
Is it part of the paper?
no, it just, I have constraints because of investments in my corporations. So there's trade things that I
Oh,
can't
all right.
discuss directly. But yes, there's other
Oh.
configurations that
Well,
will
let's let's take another example then. In a couple of years ago, William went to, I think, Austria,
Mhm.
and he talked about it in a water conference. And at that point, he showed 5 crystals in a row, and water just running down through them.
Right.
Okay.
And then
So that
there's
instead
the
of having
tetrahelix. Yeah.
in the matrix. So that instead
No,
of
the
water,
tetrahelix.
Tetrahelix is called.
Yeah.
tetrahelix. I mean, like the DNA
Tetrahelix.
configuration.
Yeah.
Similar.
Yeah.
Similar,
The
yeah.
tetrahedral, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then, well,
So
then I see where
that-
that, yeah, I can
that
see where
I've
that can be a
talked about.
problem.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
I'm happy to help you with this. We can discuss it directly. That's easier.
I think we probably should, because it sounds
yeah.
like there are too many things that are a problem.
Yeah,
Because we could have a direct correlation to moving some medical treatments out of Mexico into other areas, and each place would need a crystal or more.
right. There's people in Brazil that are really interested as well, that have medical clinics over there, and multiple ones, and so on. And we could, make a international effort to, bring that research to bear that I haven't had time to address directly, because I'm involved on the other side of the stuff that I'm working on. And
Well, I'm in Newport Beach, so I could bring you down. I'm only 20 kilometers from you.
I know.
So I could bring down the templates and show you some of the videos that we have of this
Yeah.
particular organization.
Yeah,
Or we can do it with William too.
yeah, it's good that you're getting those results.
Oh, they're very good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there is a lot of research that has to be done in that direction, including some of the research I'm doing currently, in terms of like increasing coupling to the vacuum structure, and to ATP production and in cells, and like that really ultimately will do the job and remove the uncertainties of screening approach, meaning that we'll be able to literally imprint the information without the compounds, right, into the system, so that the what you're calling the frequency, I'll talk about it more, about the information is transmitted into the body in a direct way, directly from the crystals, or if you'd like.
Something like the crystals in a different, like in the bed configuration, crystals being positioned.
Yeah, there's that, but as well, each device in the bed would be a little different than I will just say that the crystals that I've put on the market are passive, right?
Well, I was in Mark's laboratory a few years ago.
And
he showed me a different one. Yeah.
There is ways to make them active, so meaning passive is already good. Active, you can do some other stuff with them that relate to that earlier question as well, that I pled the fifth on. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yes,
Right.
that seems to be the case in the confirmation that came from, shall we say, a third source indicated that.
right. So there is a lot that can be done, and especially in terms of medical application, and health, extension of life, yeah, very, very, very advanced stuff can be done. The art crystal is really the first step, and it's the seed, so it's a really good thing to have it, because we will bring things forward that will move that along. So
Okay, so how should we contact you in order to set something up to discuss that privately.
You have my phone numbers?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Marshall sent them to me
Yeah, so,
a long time ago, but I'll find them.
yeah, you know my staff, so.
We'll hook you up.
Okay.
Yeah.
We know people on the inside.
Oh, you do? Very good. Not too bad.
Are you coming to Tulum?
Oh, I'm going to try. I have a
Okay.
disabled wife here, so occasionally I have a challenge with that. So
Yeah, I understand. You know, if you can make it, though, it'd be fun to
oh yeah,
have.
well, I was there the last. Well, I've been in a bunch of them, but
Yeah, you
although
were in
Mexico was great last time. I mean, my God, and then especially to hear about the new paper. We
Yeah,
talked about the paper about 3 years ago at the Disclosure Fest, and we happened to have our two cars parked next to each other in the parking lot.
yes.
And the way you talked about it, it almost made me emotional. You know, to think about how these things fit so well.
Randy,
I mean, whoa, it's good
Randy.
stuff.
Randy,
Hmm.
which part of the emotion was almost?
Excuse me?
Which part of the emotion was almost?
Still didn't hear you, sorry. Which part of the emotion was what?
Almost. You said
Almost?
almost emotional.
Oh, I did? Okay.
Yes, I reckon it was emotional.
It was, we
It's
walked away from
emotional
that.
for me.
Yeah, you know, I in the last 2 years since that happened, I've told people about this paper, and I said, you know, if the math is correct, and of course I haven't seen the math, but if the math is correct, this stuff is far, far bigger than Einstein, far bigger than Einstein. All right, so it's truly exciting. It's beyond exciting stuff. I'm anxiously awaiting that paper. That's for sure.
Yeah, Einstein would have solved it if he had the right tools. But it's just that it's an evolution from what it was, you know, from the other ones. Like it really is just standing on the shoulders of giants. The pieces were all there. They just needed to be put in the right order. That really is what it was. But thank you. And when you hear the right order, what makes you emotional, and you know, multiple physicists that have seen these, like in your case, you didn't see the equations, but
No, I haven't seen
you
it.
know, others have, you know, yeah, tears come up, and they come up for me almost every day, you know, because it's so beautiful. It's and your consciousness, your body, your emotional body, everything kind of like gets it, you know, it just lands. And
It's
when
simple.
it lands, yeah,
The way nature should be. It's a
Right.
simple explanation. It's geometric. It's just wonderful.
yeah. And when it lands, it really kind of like brings up deep emotion of you know, one of the emotion can be, oh, thank God, you know, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I can understand the universe and myself.
It does make sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. And the other can be this incredible feeling of belonging into something so vast and so amazing and so powerful, you know, that your soul just rejoice, you know, in the reunion back to the whole, you know.
Yeah. I've actually used that in meditation before. That
think
very
it's a-
concept you just said.
Like you were saying
Powerful.
as well, Nassim, that familiarity, that recognition at all the
Yeah.
different levels. You
Very
know,
good.
It's
Very
not
good.
just the mind, you know, getting, oh, it makes sense, but the body, the emotions, everything, just because it's coherent, it just comes right through. And
Right.
it's,
It's
yes,
almost like your cells and your atoms are going, yay,
right.
you know, he's
Yeah.
got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's
And you
like,
can feel it then, not just
Yeah,
know it in your
everything
mind,
is
but you
happy.
feel it. Yeah.
yeah.
Is that
That's
right?
cool.
All right.
Well,
Excellent.
I'll contact you then, Nassim, and we'll
Okay.
maybe set something up at the lab.
Sounds good.
All right. Very good.
Take
Thanks.
care, Rennie.
Nice to
care.
see you
Good
to
again,
see you.
Randy.
Take care.
Hopefully we'll see you in Tulum.
I'm going to give it a shot,
All right.
just
It's
like
my
everybody
job.
else should. Just like
Right.
everybody else.
Yes,
Give it at
thank
least a
you.
shot.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
well, Nassim, it's 4:40. Do you want to leave it there for the
Yeah.
day? I think that
Okay.
was a great session. We got a few questions in. Thank you,
Mhm.
everybody, for putting all the other questions in. And I really appreciate, Nassim, how much time you took to cover some of these topics in more depth today, because it was very illuminating for I know myself, and I'm sure for everybody, to just get a sense of this wholeness and this bigger picture, and why it's so important for us.
Yeah, and I
Thank you.
think it's really important to understand how it applies into your life every day. And
Yeah,
it really does, you know. It
Yeah.
really, really does. It's a different perspective
yeah,
of the nature of your reality and yourself. And I'm not saying driving on the highway in a 6-lane highway, you know, cutting through traffic, you know, it's the thing you're gonna be thinking about. But to have some moments in your day where you actually come back to the one, you know, and come back to the oneness of your existence, and take the time to look at the reality around you and perceive it in a different way, to make that effort every day till it so that it becomes almost second nature, or first nature. You know, this this way, um is really important, because it will change your life. It will transform your life. And as I was saying earlier, and with Randy, is like these events we have where we come together and we discuss these things and exchange information and our feelings and all this. I mean, there's a reason it has an emotional component. You know, the emotions are part of the mechanics of this whole thing. And you know, so there's an opening, there's a transformation at the deep, you know, emotional level as well, that occurs, and that's really powerful. And again, doesn't mean you're in that state all the time. It just means that you have a path to getting to that state, and you can go there when you choose to, which is really, really important. And especially in today's a little bit insanity, right? Like
a little bit.
just a little bit. I'm gonna leave it at that.
A little bit on a big fractal scale.
Yes, exactly. So,
Well, great.
yeah,
A couple more things I'll mention. We were talking about art crystals today. I don't have mine on right now to show, but you probably do. Those are great gifts for the holidays. So keep those in mind when you're thinking about people who are going through a lot of challenge, because they can be so helpful to have the art crystal and drink that water that's been activated by the art crystal,
right.
especially during these times of all sorts of challenges at many levels of our being. So those are great
Yeah.
gifts to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. And gifts to consider. And I guess I'm gonna see you all in 2022. And until then, have the most amazing time with your friends and family, and in your activities this month, and really make it count. Really make it count. What like, don't maybe just not even just think about the gathering of your friends and family as just people getting together to chat about things, but as well, as an opportunity to like have common intents, common willingness, and deep conversation, and deep open discussions, where all opinions are considered and
Right.
and accepted. you know, so that we can like really make a difference, even if we just think of it as the difference we're making in the morphogenetic field, you know, during that time, which is is really required on the planet right now, because you know, you all know why, and it is the time of unification beyond divisions, and like just putting everything aside and just connecting with each other as being to being, you know, during this time is really, really important. I think is a great opportunity. And so wanted to communicate that. And so
Beautiful.
we'll
Beautiful.
see you in 2022, and may the vacuum be with you until then.
And to
And
you as well.
It's gonna be an incredible year. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, everybody, for all your
Thank you, Nassim, for everything you've given this year, for all those who have been joining us, and thank you everybody who's been joining us through 2021 and becoming
and
members and supporting
you
us.
and all of the staff that has supported
Yes.
us, and all of the people behind this. You know,
Yeah.
thank you for an amazing year, and
Yeah,
and
exactly.
have an amazing year again next year. I
Coming
think
up.
next year we're launching.
We're going to a whole nother level.
Yes,
I can feel it already.
right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you all then. Be well, everybody.